The AR-15 platform, one of the most popular firearms ever made, but probably also one of the most misunderstood. Let's talk about it. Welcome back, everybody, and welcome to the journey for all those who are new to the channel. Today, I want to talk about the AR-15. Very popular platform, but I also believe it's very misunderstood. It's been in the news for the last few weeks in account of all the recent shootings that we've been encountering in the country and dealing with the politics in play with the government looking to ban quote-unquote assault weapons, as well as recent Supreme Court rulings. So today I want to give a little bit more information on the AR-15s. Now, this is not going to be a politically based subject matter. This video will not touch those lines whatsoever. I'm also not going to go into the whole history of which came first, the AR-15 or the M16, or was the AR-15 for civilians versus where it's for military. I'm not going to get into that. My purpose today is to basically provide a baseline level of information on the AR-15 for both people who have not had any exposure whatsoever to them, as well as some people who currently own them but may have a misconception of what the AR-15 can be pretty much utilized for, and just to make sure that they're aware of some of the limitations that the AR-15 has, especially for primary home defense weapon usage. So first things first, when you look at an AR-15, for the most part, and this is something I've encountered from a lot of people when I talk to them, it's very intimidating when you look at them because you see all these rails and attachments and things of that sort all over the rifle. And when you look at that rifle compared to something that you would see maybe in a sports shop or a hunting goods store that doesn't have that traditional wood stock, it looks very intimidating. Now, the first thing that needs to be understood is that all those little aspects that you're seeing, from the front aspect of the rifle to the stock, those have nothing to do whatsoever with the functionality of the weapon. The functionality remains the same in an AR-15 or in a hunting rifle. Once they're semi-automatic, they basically have the same action. Semi-automatic means that when you pull your trigger once, one round fires. When you release the trigger, it resets and automatically prepares the rifle to shoot the next round for the next trigger squeeze. That's what semi-automatic means. And in that regard, every rifle has the same fire rate. Each trigger pull fires one single round. So that doesn't change across the board. The majority of the things that you're seeing in the front of the AR-15 we call that the handguard, and that handguard is the same on any rifle. That's just basically where your hand is going to your support hand will be to help you stabilize the weapon when you're holding it up to fire, so that way you have consistency and stability. On an AR-15 and similar rifles, a lot of those look like cages, and those are pretty much part of the modern rifle look. So what that is basically it's allowing you to have attachments placed on those. So basically that little thing that looks like a cage, in essence, is basically a mounting system. And you'll use this to mount things like a bipod. So if you're laying prone when you're hunting, instead of you having to try and lift it up every single time with your elbow, you're using a bipod instead so the rifle can sit on it. Maybe you want to have a light on there so that way you can see at nighttime, whether it be for home defense or when you're out hunting and the lighting situation is not as ideal, so you need additional lighting so that you can see where you're looking at. Or maybe you want to attach a grip so that you can feel more comfortable for you ergonomically. That's all that handrail is for on an AR-15. The stock on an AR-15 is typically collapsible. Once again, there's nothing whatsoever being done on that particular component that's interrupting or adjusting the rate of fire or the action of the firearm. All that is being able to allow for you to adjust the length from your shoulder to where the base of the firearm is, because everyone's body type is different. If you're 5'5" and the next person is 6'10", obviously your shoulders and your arms are going to be totally different lengths. So you want to be able to adjust that rifle to fit with your body type accordingly so that you feel comfortable when you're holding it. That's all that stock is for the adjustability. That's all that is. So once again, it does look intimidating when you look at that compared to a typical hunting rifle. But just know that all that is basically for the ability to customize and adapt certain features so that you feel more comfortable and stable, as well as for you to be able to have components necessary for you to be able to utilize your rifle in less than ideal situations. And you don't have to do any kind of drilling or modifying to the actual frame of the firearm itself like you would if you had a traditional rifle. Now, that is just from the aesthetics aspect. Another thing that needs to be stressed, and unfortunately we do not see this all the time when anytime an AR-15 is discussed, is why it's so popular. The AR-15 is a modular rifle, and by modular I mean that it allows for you to be able to utilize different types of scenarios and utilizations within a single rifle, kind of like a Swiss Army knife in essence. Before, if you wanted to have a rifle for personal home defense, you would have one particular rifle at a certain caliber. Then if you wanted to have a rifle meant for hunting, you would have a different rifle with a different caliber for that purpose. And if you wanted a rifle for sport, whether it be for distance shooting or just in general competition, then you needed an additional rifle for that. So now you have 3 different rifles for each additional purpose. On an AR-15, an AR-15 allows for you to take off the top upper section and swap it out with another section that utilizes a different caliber, as long as it's compatible with the AR-15 platform. So in essence, you can have all 3 uses: home defense, hunting, competition, all within a unique same rifle, and all you have to do is swap out a barrel, or basically the upper part. And it allows for you to be able to utilize that in a single rifle. Saves you space, saves you time. You can customize it with components inside to adjust to your particular body type and frame or the look that you're looking for, all within the same rifle. So it's modular. And that's where popularity comes in, because now you can, instead of you buying a rifle where you're at the mercy of the manufacturer in terms of how the rifle handles and feels in your hand when you're using it or shooting, you can customize it now to meet more with your personal utilization and character, so that way it feels more unique to you and feels more comfortable when you're using it. So that's where the popularity of an AR-15 comes in. In addition to that, because it's modular in that regard, an AR-15 can handle different kinds of calibers. It can go as small as the 22 long rifle, which is a very small bullet geared towards shooting varmint, like rabbits, squirrels, chipmunks, really small animals like that. And these are the when the shit hit the fan type of scenarios where there's no food around and you're hunting for something just for being able to eat, like a squirrel or a rabbit. I mean, yeah, it's not something that you're gonna typically go to your restaurant looking for, but if a scenario ever finds itself where you need to be able to find food, these are those small little things that you would use that for. So 22 long rifle, for the most part, is geared towards those small varmints. In addition, that caliber is also used as a training platform for getting familiar with firearms in general, because they have pretty much no recoil. So it's a plinking tool in that regard as well, because there's no recoil, but it allows you to be able to build up habits so that when you go to a larger caliber, it feels more comfortable because you've already practiced on something that gives you familiarity. So that's one caliber it handles. It also handles 9mm. So there's, as well as 45, 10mm. So it also can do pistol loads. It can handle the typical 223, 5.56, which is the standard caliber that most people have when they buy an AR. But you also have hunting calibers like 300 Blackout, like 6.5 Grendel. You have competition calibers like 224 Valkyrie or 6mm ARC, where geared more towards shooting at distance. So these are all different calibers that are used, but the 223 5.56 is the standard that you'll find on the AR-15. Keep in mind also, this same 223 5.56 caliber is also available on other rifle platforms. The speed of the how you fire them remains the same across the board. The efficiency of how you shoot them is going to be based on the rifle itself, but the AR-15 is not the only rifle that shoots these platforms. So this is something I want everybody to keep in mind. Now, from a caliber perspective, I'm going to be very, very honest. If you believe that you're using an AR-15 for home defense, you're being very delusional and very, very naive to yourself as well. And I'm going to tell you why. There's only one, with the exception of one caliber, the AR-15 for an indoor home defense scenario does not make any logical sense because, for one, an AR-15 is very loud. When you shoot an AR-15, regardless of whether you're indoors or outdoors, it's creating a significant bang that will damage your ears without hearing protection. AR-15 shoots supersonic ammo, meaning that it crosses the sound barrier, and as a result, has a nice crack once it meets that speed, and that damages your ears. And also, when you fire from the barrel itself, that bang as well is also significant enough to damage your ears. When you are indoors, walls will bounce that sound and amplify it even more, and do significant damage to your hearing to the point where if you fire one round, you'll be very lucky if you can hear again for a week. Imagine if you have a scenario where you're encountering multiple threats and you fire one round. You have a whole bunch of other threats to worry about, but you've already been disoriented because of that first round. You put yourself at very much of a disadvantage, and you're putting yourself in harm's way as a result because of the damage you just done to your ears and how much it's disoriented you. The only round that in the AR-15 that can be used for a home defense scenario is the 300 blackout. The reason for that is because the 300 blackout also has a version that is subsonic. Subsonic ammo means that it travels less than 1,000 feet per second and does not break the sound barrier. But in order to make it hearing safe, you also need to use a suppressor on this AR-15. Otherwise, you're going to still have that same bang from when you first fired the rifle that's still going to damage your ears. A suppressor neutralizes that. So if you combine a suppressor with a subsonic 300 blackout, then you'll have a hearing safe home defense, personal home defense weapon that can be utilized. And that's the only AR-15 platform caliber that can be utilized for home defense. Otherwise, you're doing yourself a disservice. You're being very delusional and naive about utilizing it in the AR-15. So I'm hoping I'm not offending anybody who has an AR-15 now and was using that or delegated that for home defense. But if you are, you need to be aware of the repercussions and the damage that an AR-15 will do to you when you're firing in an indoor scenario. In addition to that, the other aspect of why I believe a home defense of using an AR-15 platform for anything other than 300 blackout does not make sense is because of the speed of that ammo that you're shooting. The typical 223 5.56 bullet is smaller than a 9mm bullet, but the speed that that bullet is traveling at is going to have enough kinetic energy behind it that's going to hit harder, and it's also going to cause overpenetration. That's something that you have to worry about, especially if you're in a community where, whether you're in an apartment or a townhouse where your walls are very thin, or you're right next to your neighbor, or if you're in a neighborhood where you have your own house but your next door neighbor is still within a very close distance. You have to worry about that overpenetration, leaving that intruder's body and still going through drywall into the neighbor's house. The bullet's just too fast. It's going to overpenetrate. On a 300 blackout, it's not traveling as fast, so the likelihood of overpenetration is less significant. So that's another reason why I do not believe that AR-15 is good for home defense. Great for intermediate threats. Let's say someone, for whatever reason, you have, let's say, a group of thugs outside of your home 50 yards, 100 yards away, and they decide to rain hellfire at your house, shooting at your house, and you need to defend yourself. Then, if you're in those kind of conditions, then yes, an AR-15 would be a better usage for that particular person, that situation. Now, by all means, make sure that if you are going to use your AR-15 or any weapon for that matter for a situation like that you're still compliant with the laws in your state. Make sure you do the research on your state so that way you know what your limitations are. Because just because they may be in your yard or they may be in your vicinity does not mean that you have the authority and authorization to use lethal weapons in regards of retaliation. Make sure you do your research accordingly for that. So, once again, my personal opinion, an AR-15 does not make sense for a home defense usage unless it's a 300 blackout. Outside of that, you're better off with a pistol caliber carbine or a pistol or a shotgun for indoor home defense. That's just my personal opinion. Take it for what it's worth. Hopefully, the information I provided will give some context to the AR-15 and dispel some of the misconceptions that are currently out there right now. Once again, I'm not going to get into political aspects of whether they should be banned or they should not be banned or anything along those lines. That's for you to do your own research on and for you to have your own personal preference on. My whole goal is just to provide some sort of information, and as always, make sure you do your own due diligence as well, because I'm just a personality on YouTube. But the most important thing for you is to decide for yourself and to do your own research so that you can make an informed decision on where your stance needs to be. If you like what you've seen, hit that like and subscribe button, share it with your friends. Hopefully I'll see you more often on these pages. Enjoy the journey, and as always, be safe. Thank you.